another complication, journey through another maze. I found my way to recapitulation. Everything is still a haze, but heaven still holds me. I live my life inside imagination. Keep the secrets I have made. It's the silence that enslaves me. It's the only thing that saves me. If you knew what it meant to me, to make it through tonight, you would be a morning star, and guide me through this life. Every day's another conversation, soaking our instead with lies. The whole thing's open to interpretation. It should come as no surprise. The enemy is everywhere. Death would be an ample compensation, even if it's my demise. But heaven doesn't want me. It's its own blood and perspiration. I would wipe the tears and lies. But heaven disowned me. Now heaven won't know me. If you knew what it meant to me, to make it through tonight, you would be a morning star and guide me through this life. Nobody gets all the life, but I know that's the way to find my I can't say that I didn't try. I guess that I just have to try again. If you knew what it meant to me, to make it through tonight, you would be a morning star and guide me through this life. You would be a morning star and guide me through this life.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Laughing Lamp. 8 o'clock, rise and shine, nighty night, however you'd like to go with that one. I am your host, Jin of the Lamp, and I will be your inner fear. I continue to keep calling myself that. It's actually a band name I wanted to come up with should I have had the luck and luxury of establishing music. But I didn't, but I ended up using the name one way or another. This week, I think I'm going to start digging into more of my past. I'm going to start bringing into my introduction, my perspective to wake up and hello to the world. And hello, everybody that is here joining me live now. And for those of you who would like to stay in for the Q&A, should I have enough people for all that. And for those who watch after the show, thank you very much for your views. I have been very appreciative of what I have seen. It's good enough for me. I'm very happy with that. And of course, we could always get better. So what if we get worse? We just keep doing it anyway. Right? We like what we're doing. We have a passion for what we're doing. So we keep doing it anyway. Right? The thankless part of the job. I'm also a bit crazy. So who knows? It might just be the nutso part of the job in me. Right? All right. Now I posted this week a bunch of poems. well, not a bunch, but a few poems that I also had in college that I was able to find reluctantly. I did share them on Facebook, so that is how I found them. There is a login to the college website for me to get on there. The professor actually made us post them onto the college campus website, but I don't recall my login, and I haven't gone through the password recovery. Yeah, I don't find that important. Not for me. I don't care. I have the degree already. Sorry, but I'm not an alumni fanatic, and I'm not one of those, oh, I love my college type of people. I care less for any of that stuff. I mean, I appreciate the connections I made, but at the same time, those connections kind of set me up for the future failures. But that comes with sharing information with your friends and thinking you know what to do, and they give you good advice. So you always push. Not, I can't say always, but you end up trying their advice at least once to see how far it goes. Well, the advice I've been given hasn't gotten me very far. But I also have done that on purpose to myself. You see, I purposely choose what I consider to be a bit of a harder road, a stupider road, a moronic road. I don't know, a negative road. I enjoy the challenge, I think. I think I like living in filth and smut to a degree. And I excuse those terminologies, but to some degree, I like living in some kind of harsher background, if you will. A harder upbringing, I think it keeps one alive. Plus, it opens up your perspective on those that live there as well. Like these lovely neighbors that are blasting music outside, hip hop and getting high and drunk and all that shit. Meanwhile, I'm in here making a video. Yeah, you don't have to be a part of that community. And again, like I said last week, that community may shun you out because you're not a part of theirs. And they will use whatever wordplay, power of the sword versus power of the pen. I wonder when humanity will turn that power of the pen into the power of the sword again, because it seems like that's where we're going to end up going at some point. But this week, I'm going to try to get into, again, more of the upbringing. I'm going to go through my poems as well. I'm just going to read them anyway, just for the entertainment value. I'm going to have fun with it. I've already posted it, so fuck it. Might as well just go ahead and embarrass myself more and read it to you. Not even in the same perspective I had it back in college. It's a whole new reading of it. It's a whole new perspective of it, and a whole new interpretation of what it's supposed to mean, what it may have meant even back then. It's a whole new thing. Everything's new. I also just, well, actually, I'm wearing this shirt on purpose. Yes, it was a gift, and I'm in Florida, so I cut off all my fucking sleeves. It is what it is. It's cliche. It's one of those things. It's really hot down here, and it's one way of getting used to it. But this shirt will relate to one of the posts I did post this week on my Facebook page of the Laughing Lamp. But I'll get to that in a minute. But yes, it's an angry bird. For those of us who know it, it's one of the angry birds. It's the blackbird. But we'll get into that description in just a minute. I was gifted something else with this. Actually, my brother gave me a dangling keychain with the black angry bird on it. We'll get into that conversation in just a moment. We'll get there because it's a post, so I kind of have to. I can't exactly forget it this time, right? And just skim through some subject and forget what I was on about. Not this time. This time I'll be more on target. Let's get the poems out of the way so I could just get right into the discussions that I would like to get into, or the story of my life that I'd like to get into. So it was creative writing class. I figured that out eventually, finally, right? And I'm going to share this story and see if, well, I can't really see if you guys have a perspective on it or not because nobody seems to be in the room. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding, guys. But I will read it to you, and I'll try to explain what I meant through it to a degree. Okay, so part of my eye contact now. I'm going to read. His eyes begin to water, and he blinks. The blink creates a flash of light, and he's a toddler again, crying, but mom and dad know the answer, and they know that he's just lonely. As he begins to quiet down, a flash of light again appears as he blinks. The tears begin to drip towards his nose. He's being left alone by mom with other children. He's 5, and it's first day of school. The lack of singular attention made him act out enough for mom to come back in. What a mama's boy he is. At least for the first week. Mom silences him again and runs the tears from his face, but they quickly build again as he blinks, and another flash appears. His tears begin to reach his lips, and the flash brings him to 14. Seeing his first crush kissing another boy, he begins to wonder if all firsts end the same. The tears begin to reach his chin, and another flash brings him to his 25th year when he gets married to a lovely woman, but trouble for this relationship quickly comes as she passes very young from cancer. With no legacy left behind, and alone again, the tears drip from his chin to the floor. The final flash, as his body would hit the floor together with his tear, was followed by the bullet that created the only flash I ever saw. That's interesting wordplay because the story is told in third-person value. He, she, it, they, that kind of a value. So I'm going to explain a little something about some college writing after this. So it's written in third person format. And at the end, the very, very end, see if you pay attention to the films that you watch, to the books that you read, anything that you do, the people that you meet, the conversations that you hold, for Christ's sake, anything, eventually a keyword or wordplay of the story gets told in a whoopsie-daisy type of format. And what does that mean, whoopsie-daisy? Well, I got a friend and he or she and he and he and he. Oh, yeah, but she, whoops. Yeah, that's a slip up. And I, oh, those are slip ups. My mother, my father, but I, oh, you slipped again. So the story is about you at some point. And that's the idea here. I think we've watched movies and read books about your life blinking right before your eyes, flash of light and going towards the light and all that other stuff. And in this case, in this story, he saw his whole life flash before his eyes. But it was repetitive flashing, that instantaneous moment from the bullet to his brain before death, that one and only flash leads to a bunch of flashes so quickly. So time slows down, doesn't it? Like a movie, it just slows down. And he starts seeing his whole past life, that purgatory value, that St. Peter met you at the gate kind of value, or the reliving your life kind of value, whatever, something of that nature, right? Oh my God, I remember, and oh my God, and I regret. Finally leading up to the only flash he ever saw. Right. I told you last week I come from dark thoughts to a degree on a certain subject. And it's a very sensitive subject, but we all have these thoughts. Whether they're so severe or they're so minuscule that we can handle it through our day-to-day, or we find a way to deal with it, that's fine. But we all have a little bit of a dark and depressing thought process somewhere in our day. At some point, we just think that that's the most negative thing about something at work, something in the family, something in the car, something. I'm having a good moment right now, putting on a good show, watching television. I gotta make sure I get that damn oil change, though. I mean, it's an example of a negative thought. It's one idea of a negative thought. You had a good moment, everything was fine. Hell, this might have been an oil change in the television show that reminded you I needed an oil change. But regardless, a negative thought interrupts your day. It doesn't cause you to get depressed to where I need to go hang myself or find a way to end it quickly, or whatever it might be. End it. The point being, end it. But I do come from deep, dark thoughts. I've sat in my own mind. I mean, since I was 5, I claim. But truthfully, really, and I'll get to that story too. I skipped out on it last week. My summer vacation, the best of the best vacations that transitioned us from the Clifton to Garfield move in the first place, things changed very drastically. And the dark thoughts, they were happening towards the knowledge that we were going to move to another city in the first place. I started thinking negatively. I mean, we still had our friends there. We'd play and stay positive and all that. But you can't help but the negative thoughts come creeping at you every now and then. And you start thinking the worst of your worst, which they did happen. And again, I'll get into those stories about how often you'll see your friends again. How often can you visit again? How far are you going to live? Are we going to wait till we both get our licenses? Are our parents going to be able to drive us there back and forth, as much as we used to? For example, when the neighborhood in Clifton I came from, my best of friends were literally right next door to me and right across the street from me and a couple of houses down. They were right there. It's our neighborhood block, our unity that we had, our little united front. For Christ's sake, my house is practically home house to a degree, and our home base was in the backyard. It was a big pole to hang our clothes, which is still there. I Google mapped it recently. But just to relate that I can have dark thoughts too, and I haven't taken myself away. I haven't harmed myself physically. But here's my joke on that as well. And I apologize for calling these things jokes, but they are jokes for me. My whole life seems like it's been nothing but a sitcom. Everything that's ever happened to me was either broken down in a funny manner to try to alleviate the moment, or I had to find a way to alleviate a down and depressing, sad moment. So in a sense, I laughed about my life. The Joker. I am the Joker. The Jinn, the Joker. Jinn, the Genie Joker, joking at your every wish. Creative wordplay through the characterization that I've created for myself. All right. I do come from dark thoughts. That's the main idea of that story. That story was, I'm not going to hurt myself. Oh, the joke. So I smoke cigarettes, as I've confessed for in the past. Each and every burn of that cigarette, to me, is no different than somebody physically harming themselves somewhere on their body, or over drinking themselves to half to death. The whole sayings that we come up with, or I drank myself half to death, or I smoked myself half to death, or I did something. Okay, you did something. I understand. You overused something, and my overuse would be smoking cigarettes, tobacco. And my latest oral fixation has been to talk a whole lot more than I've ever talked in my life about subjects that I've never really talked about, except with those that were able to poke at me enough to gain my trust to break down a mental aspect that I have on a certain subject. And then this is where the socialization factor comes in. It tells me you're a bit crazy, or you're very on point. This is the sad part. I call myself crazy because I know how they sound. The confirmations that I receive from these people are, you really have a wonderful insight to this world, but nothing you can do alone. You're never going to change the world by yourself. Life is the way it is. You do have to find a way to adapt to it. One of the gentlemen that I met down here, he said to me, one day when you have a family and you have more responsibilities than you have now, you'll understand the sacrifices that you'll have to make in order to keep a job or keep your mouth shut, whatever it might be. And I told him, watch me. Granted, I ended up, again, where I ended up. I work the job that I have now, but it's more than enough to support the family that I ended up having down here. And I'm going to get into the nitty gritty of every person, the relationship I'm in with now, the child that I'm raising now, perhaps what made me what I am from past relationships and past experiences, just from people, watching people in their relationships. I can't be a marriage therapist or a counselor, but I have seen and observed other people through their shit. And I have obviously gone through my own relationships. I've also lived with a partner. So marriage to me is a combination of the relationship and living with somebody. And how you put those together and how do you make it balance in your own life is up to you and you and that other 50%, the other partner. Should have had a better communicative first date. I know who I live with, but the communication on our first date was what made it to where we are today. Very different from the communications I started off with on my pasts. But those are mistakes that we learn about and we grow from. And hopefully the other people as well that you were with perhaps learn from something from you and use it in their next obligationary, in their next life, the next step, whatever they move on to. That's the dark side of me. Let's move on to the next one, because the next one's a bit more of a bright side one, because it is a poem about home and what it meant. But these are all college poems. These two are college poems. And I'm going to stress the importance of why I did post them this week when I only posted one of them last week. And I'll explain, as I said, it will all be explained. Another gem. All right, follow along with me if you like, but I'm going to go ahead and start reading here. A place of harmony and of hope. The doors are closed but never locked. It stands white like the Garden of Eden, sin on the outside but never within. Respect is given to the elders, responsibility handed down to kin. A place dreamt of by those without. Come one, come all, and relax. There's plenty of space within this place. It's not the best, but there is no other, thanks to my parents and little brother. Tough times come with stress all around, but within these walls all pains are shared. It is not Paris, nor is it Rome, but is the only place I call home. A couple of rhymes in there, and most of it's just the story build-up. Again, the importance of the poems that I shared and the poems that I wrote. And again, I survived college life, so the professors got to see the not so crazy, dark, depressing motherfucker that you see here before you on this video. And I survived it and made it through a bachelor's degree program, which with all due respect is probably the easiest thing in the world. I think the hardest thing most of us think about is how to write papers, which is what I want to talk about in just a minute. That little difference between, those who remember, MLA paper versus an APA paper. But I'm going to tell you my secret to paper writing in general, regardless of what kind of style paper you're writing. Now, the importance of these poems is to kind of show you, not only one, I survived college. So the mentality that's crazy that appears here in front of you is what it is to you. Your first, I don't care how you judge me. It is what it is. These professors and co-students, these fellow students, they had to deal with me. And at the end of the day, I'm going to brag now, I was always the group leader for the projects. I always did the talking when it comes to the speeches of our presentations, PowerPoints, and I did all that. And I had all of them email me everything, and I would input everything in there. Ready for this confession? I never fucking used maybe one slide from my partners' work because their shit really sucked. When I say it sucked, I'm talking about I made 6 beautiful slides. Just an example. They gave me 8 trashy slides, 1 good one on their subject. Their 25%, if you will, their half, whatever percentage. And this one would submit theirs on their subjects. And again, 10, 12 slides, 2, 3 of them may be good. take their slides, reword them myself, submit it to me, and then I'll put it back in for you. Here's your new flashcards, study them, meet us at class an hour early. Let's go over this presentation together once, twice, 3 times. Guess what happens during the class presentation? I present most of it. That confidence came from the military. One would open me up and speak more ballsier, if you will, speak out. College, and I went my transition. I was discharged and enrolled. I enrolled myself for the next upcoming semester already before my discharge. Discharged, about a month break, give or take. Start up right away. College. My first classes, well, it was 4 classes. I took 16 credits. See, that's the thing with the GI Bill nobody seems to understand. And I'll talk about that internship that the lieutenant threatened to kick me out of the class and why I just had to do what I had to do. You have to be registered as a full-time student, which means at minimum 12 credits or more. So I took 16, which ended up being slightly of a bit of a mistake later. And we're talking 3 years towards the end of the degree later. I was able to take 16 credits full-time. I never took a break. 3 years straight school. The only break they gave us was at the end of the semester until the beginning of the semester, which is 2 weeks, a month, actually, I think. Or 3 weeks to a month, something like that. But not much of a gap, really. And my first semester, I took public speaking. And I said, let's get that out of the way. And it's a 4-credit class. So I took 16 credits up until the point where I started to get a little overstressed, and I started taking 12 credits, which led to the internship that started to cause problems. But I'll get into that in just a minute. So I took public speaking, and public speaking, I thought I'd be very nervous about it. And of course, like, I would laugh at everybody else making mistakes, and I'm sure they did too when I went up there eventually. But the difference was from my experiences of my home life to the military, and seeing the nervousness of, when I'm a freshman in college, when I've skipped out on 3 years, I'm a bit older with more experience. And you see these high school graduates showing up as freshmen, same as you're a freshman. But that embarrassment, that social awkwardness that they have coming into, and even the 20-plus-year-olds, hell, for Christ's sake, I mean, I did share class with 30-some-odd-year-olds and 40-some-odd-year-olds, single parents, 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds coming in for their bachelor's in a new subject, but they're there for college one way or another. And they're shy and embarrassed to speak in front of a public group. And I know confidence has a lot to do with that, but what is confidence then? Well, confidence is not being afraid to speak your truth. Your truth. As long as you know whether you get a laugh out of them or not, whether you get a reaction that you want. That's the thing. You can't expect a reaction out of them. I said my life is a sitcom, but I don't expect everybody to listen into my life to laugh along with me or laugh at me. I mean, laugh if you laugh. Otherwise, oh my God, what kind of life? Have your own reactions. Make yourself your own you. Don't look around and see what everybody else is doing and then try to follow their crowd, their example. Be your own example. Be your own light in your own lamp of friends, in your own lamp of family. Be your own light. Let people follow you. Feel the confidence in yourself to, well, why should I overthink it? But I think too much. Why should I overthink it when it's as simple as this? Because nothing is ever as simple as what it's supposed to be. It simplifies itself after we've normalized that crazy information and made it normal for us. When I joke about this and say Albert Einstein may have been a genius in mathematics and equations and figuring out the sciences of things through numbers, but ask him to make you a pot of coffee, and that machinery with the button pressing, complicated as hell. He knows what the buttons do, and he can tell you how much electricity it runs at the push of a button to the moment it releases and holds its normal charge for the boiling of the water. And he could tell you that, but he can't make a pot of coffee. That is a complicated feat amongst itself for him. He can tell you the chemical change of the water, of the caffeine beans, whatever coffee beans you're using. He could tell you the molecular change and even show it to you in a numbered diagram while equating the sun to it and all that. You know, that's the joke. But he can't make the pot of coffee himself. That is the difference in the genius between the people that you meet here in this life. I can drive a car, but I can't tell you how it operates, the engine, how the gears decide to switch on an automatic transmission, why I shouldn't over-rev my car too long in a manual transmission, for example, sit it at high revs. I couldn't tell you the logistics and the things about that, but I can drive the car. But that's my mentality. Apparently I could live life Actually, I'm failing at living life, but I'm probably also failing at explaining life. But my perspective being a failure that way means that the knowledge that I have, to me, the knowledge that I've received, it's nothing but failures. Failed information that don't work, or the actor who's trying to act it out, perform this advice, is failing. That's me. I'm failing to perform the advice I've been given over the years. I can say that my excuse on that is, I've actually tried your advice. I couldn't, you're right, play it properly, that it turned into my own show. And my own show never ended up becoming the acceptable show that the audience wanted to see. Interviewer or whatever, whoever the audience might be. But public speaking, once I got that out of the way, and I realized I could talk in front of people fairly well. Not great, but fairly well. Boom. Rest of college was easy peasy. I'm going to relate it to that first time you see your partner naked and they see you naked. The comfort level, that stress level, that barrier, how much can they show them of myself? Yeah, but you still haven't shown them your mental craziness yet, but you've shown them your awkward body, your weird moles, whatever. Once you get naked with your other partner, usually a lot of the physical stress is taken away. The mental stress comes in now, and that's a whole different fight or something you go through with your partners. That you deal with that, you figure that out with them. But yeah, once I get that stress level out with public speaking, I said, well, I could just perform any class project now pretty easily. And I did very well. And my grades will show you that proof. Again, maybe I'll try to get my hands, I'll get my password reset and get my hands on my transcript, show you my grades. Because here's an interesting thing. I began failing exams in the third grade. I stopped giving a rat's ass about schoolwork. In third grade. So what are we talking, 5 years, 8 years old? Stopped giving a shit about my education. I only did what I needed to just barely get by. I never needed summer school until high school, which was a school change, a city change, but eventually, well, I passed and I didn't need anything special. We'll get into my senior trip story, because the interesting thing about that graduation is not everybody got to graduate for interesting reasons. Senior trip, which I didn't go on. All right. So the idea of the poems, why I put those college poems out there before I get into another poem that's not college related and the rest of my posts. Those two college poems plus the one from last week is just to show I survived college. I was able to do what I had to do and conform to their standard of whatever's normal to them and whatever needed to be done for their class. It is to show that I can follow instructions just fine. My grades, when I get my hands on those, will prove that I did very well in my own way of interpreting my craziness on the class, for the class. That's the point of sharing these poems. This is the crazy guy who writes like this. Let me relate a poem in health class, junior year maybe. The teacher asked us to write a poem using our name first letters and then write a poem. She liked mine so much, she asked me if she'd be willing to submit it to a state contest or something like that nature, and I refused. I was too fucking shy about that shit. I didn't want anybody knowing my name being submitted anywhere, and God forbid, at that time, God forbid, I actually won or came runner-up, something that where my name would become in the school. I'm not interested. I wasn't at the time. Looking back, it would have been nice to do it anyway, because I mentioned that recognition the school gave us when I finally presented the military names and they put our names up there. It was nice, very nice. But I was older then, and I understood the concept of being recognized for the jobs that we do and the tasks that we do. It was very nice to have recognition. Sailor of the Day, monthly blue jacket of the award. I have a couple of commendations. But when you get things like that, they make you feel a bit special. The security award that I received, and that was a $50 with a $500 chance outcome. It never happened. But the point of those poems is to show that I can conform to a certain standard of yours. I hate it, so I do my own thing. And that's the rebel in me, to make fun of the whole Southerners being rebels. Yeah, but at the end of the day, that's because look at the normal that you make for them. This is the normal that you make for them, and that's not the normal that they unite with. See the terminology there? They don't unite with what you've considered to be normal. So they come off as crazy and chaotic to you, but you are crazy and chaotic to them. Different standards of normal, different standards of crazy. Uniting factor is, I bet you, they both know how to shake hands. They both won't kill. They both won't murder. They won't rape your wives. They won't cheat on their partners. Whatever other holy matrimony type bullshit that they all will agree with, because as far as I'm concerned, yeah, you might be different and rebellious, but you're Christian and Christian, or Jewish and Jewish, or Catholic and Catholic, whatever. Keep segregating yourselves amongst the stupidity of a Mason-Dixon line and beliefs and North and South states, United States of America. And I'm going to make fun. It's just fun. North and South Carolina, North and South Dakotas. I mean, East and West Virginias. Okay. Keep segregating yourselves. It's funny. I need another state. We need to have 50. It's the logic that I have. Dakota was not good enough. So, North and South. Carolina wasn't good enough. North and South. And then there's the whole rivalry, on which side chose which side of the war. But they'll both consider themselves to be southern states. We're South. We're Southies. Okay. But then the war. Okay. Your logic doesn't make sense. 2, 2, 2, 2. Where's the 1 and 1? Where is that? Well, I'm going to dig in and I'm going to try to find it. And if I can't find it, I'm going to have to be forced to come up with my own 1 and 1, because those 1 and 1s equal the crazy fucking 2 that you presented to me. I could not find another 2. I guess this 2 is the only answer. But the 1 and 1s you gave me don't make sense in the equation of reaching this 2 outcome. So I filled in the blanks that were missing, or I incorporated my own imaginary thoughts and processes based off of how I would perceive, for example, a brother seeing his another brother in the war line, but wearing a different uniform. I look at that today, and I say to myself, my brother's up north and I'm down south, and we've had different mentalities from when we were both up north in the first place. And now we have way hell different mentalities now that we've been, separated north and south. But that life experiences have changed all that. But when we were both united, there was that unity and the brotherhood factor that we were brothers. Yes, I still think like you, but dude, you're drifting. One of us or both of us had that thought on each other. And we do that with our best of friends and everything else. I have 2 very good friends. One is still in the service, so he'll be traveling back and forth here and there. One of them actually moved to a whole different state with another friend, my 3rd best friend, and they're together. Go figure. Congratulations to you guys. And so we segregated states. One of them kind of can't figure out what state he wants. Right? Okay, booby. Now, just joking around. Military is an interesting lifestyle. Another post that related to college on the next idea here, because that's the idea behind the poems and what I've done. I can follow structure. I can do exactly what I need to. I just don't agree with it, so I decide not to. That's my point on those poems, on top of showing you that I have a dark, deep thought in mind. So don't criticize me for the fact that I talked about suicide, or the fact that I even brought up rape or sex and love. I have been there. I have done that. I have my own perspective on all of these things. So I'm just sharing my perspective. Whether you can click with it or not, I don't really care for that. The idea is that it is a truth that's out there that somebody can and will relate with. And I'm sure you've gone through it yourselves. All due respect, you just don't like to hear it. And if you're listening to this in private versus listening to it with your partners or with your families, I'm offending each and every one of you. And I'm proud of the fact that I can offend you, which means I can trigger what I have claimed to be a 6th sense inside of you. I've triggered a feeling. And now you realize that the rest of the world has been triggering your fucking feelings all this time. Except for those of us that have, this is where you're emotionless. You've been numbed out. I don't feel for this same happiness. It takes more to make me sad because of the things that I've seen or have experienced or had to do. I have numbed my soul out. I've numbed my feelings out for murder. I've numbed my feelings out for a poor girl. I've numbed my feelings out for children. I've numbed my feelings out for the elderly. I've numbed my feeling out for certain public figures. And especially if you wear certain colors, I've numbed myself out to you. Well, I'm treating you back. I want to joke on say that this is the Laughing Lamp retreat, where we retreat you the way you have treated us all along. And I make that joke when it comes to the gentleman that I met who is Italian of nature. Well, you can't call me a mobster. Well, then stop looking at me like I'm just Islamic or I'm a terrorist. Or you do the same thing. I am, as they say in cliche, treat others the way you want to be treated. Well, if you want to treat me with a amphetamine introduction of staying dangerous, I can do that too. I'm going to treat you right back, but in my own variety, where I feel good about it in my own stomach. Not in a negative manner that you have, but I don't have to show you respect anymore. You did not respect me, which is an interesting thing when I argue with my parents about it when it comes to, again, Christian upbringing. Honor thy parents. That's no different than respect is given, respect is earned, not given. Honor thy parents. Well, I could honor my parents if they showed any honor to me. And I know that's a weird way to look at it, but you get respect out of me when you show respect to me and I respect you back. Well, if you honored me, I'd be having the mentality to be able to honor you. I understand your actions. I can relate to the things you have done, the things you have. I understand you, and I honor that. And now I will react in my own manner in the hopes that you are honoring me, and I will act in a manner that I hope is honoring you. But the same with respect. You got to earn that. You got to give it. So when it comes to that kind of wordplay, I play strongly on the definition of the meaning of what it's supposed to mean, which is why the Bible and other religious documents never make sense in my head. And well, I'm going to confess, not confess, but I will say, obviously, they don't make sense because there's a lot of pages that aren't in a lot of the religious books and texts out there. And I'm not just talking about Christianity. Hinduism's got texts taken away, thrown away. Hebrewism has texts taken out, and everything's been changed, redone. Add in, take out, add in, take out. Final approval, put it out. Well, that's what you get. And then a lot of that is just a bunch of twos with no ones in between. And when you're asked to figure out the one, you end up going to that religious leader who'll try to tell you how to break down one and one. But again, I go back to that marriage problem. Hey, how the hell do you know exactly what my problem is? We could say that we have very similar problems based off of the activity, but what got one to that activity versus what got yours to that activity is a whole different conversation you had in your house. Well, sweetheart, what pushed you to do it? Well, sweetheart, what made you do it? It's different reasons. So you can't tell me, well, maybe you should sit down and have a general discussion. Doesn't always work. Your way of solving it is not going to solve mine, as similar as they might be, even if they're indebted to the same fucking person. They have been handled differently than this one has been handled. So I need to handle this one differently than this. But I appreciate your input. Your input will help me figure out a creative manner or wording or thing I'll need to push this case that way. That's what I can use. But you're not going to solve it. So stop coming like you have the only answer. You're the God of this problem, and then I'm going to owe you. Because that's at the end of the day what it comes down to is I helped you, you owe me. No, fuck you. I have always been told if you have the will and means to help somebody, then do it. Never ask or expect anything in return. I don't extort nobody. You need a sandwich and I got the extra. I bought 2 sandwiches for no reason but my fat ass stomach. I know I'm thin, but I eat a lot. I'll share my sandwich. That's just the way it is. Move on slightly. This one was not a college poem. All right, let me read this one. This is a non-college related poem. This is another deep, dark day that I had after. This is why I related the suicide to being faulty stories when it comes to breakups or a bad grade in school or a big exam coming up, whatever it might be. This was during a breakup of mine, and I was going through a sad phase, if you will, a very depressing phase. But I never wanted to kill myself. That never has ever crossed my mind to where I lost a relationship and felt the need to end it. Now, what happens before or after the facts that come out and how they come out to certain peoples, that might make me want to, but that's not anyway. I could live with it because my heart is okay with the decisions I made during the decision we made mutually to go off our own way in the first place. But anyway, this is how the poem came out. This one does rhyme. It does. The clouds would be the one thing to turn gray, but I never blink when confronted by the ray. The sun has been an enemy and a friend, but the moon has the light that never bent. Only in darkness have I met success. Even at birth, the sun was a mess. As I was guided by the moon, I would die and be born again in my room. This time shining in the light of the sun, my first day remembered was nothing but fun. All these years spent with thoughts to die, yet by surprise I'm 25 and alive. I don't know why Facebook came to mind. I think my brain may have gone blind, but I feel less stressed and refreshed. Until next we meet, I guess, is my best. Ending to a poem that has a creation with no word untrue or without passion. Whether I'm writing a poem, driving a car, working on a job, speaking to you now, speaking to you in person, everything I do, I claim to have passion and always me. It's always me behind it. When I communicate talking, I do my best. When I communicate with my hand gestures, I do my best. Signaling on the road, I do my best. Everything I do my best with as much passion as I can. The idea being is I enjoy driving. So the passion of driving alone, understanding the etiquettes of the road, letting people come at you, cut in front of you when necessary, reading the patterns, knowing whether or not, remember when we were children, whether or not we should be able to speed around these cars. It's not the legal mental process to have behind it, but it is a process that we do anyway. We end up going through it anyway. And as we get older, we start recognizing that here's that idiot that just passed me up at a red light, and we both meet up at the light. We used to be that idiot. Remember that. So stop relating yourselves to be any different than anybody else experiencing the same things you fucking did, especially your own children. Because you did what you did, your kids are going to do it too. And that being said, I'm going to generalize the idea that all children will do it as well. That's it. Because all adults have done it. And all adults seem to be lying about the way they pass down the information to their children. And all those lies, those little white lies, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to generalize it. You specify it as a white lie. So let's call that a Catholic lie. But at the end of the day, it's still a Christian lie. At the end of the day, it's a lie. A kill is a kill. Forgiveness through this reason because of war. No, a kill is a kill. I have to live with the general idea, which is a kill. Even if I killed for my family, I may still feel guilty about it. I have to consider the Cain and Abel story. He could have been my brother, but he attacked my family, and this was the only way I could to solve it, was to take him out, take his life away. Okay, but those are the decisions we have to live with, whether we imprison people, sexually harass them, murder them, kill them, harm them, mentally abuse them, whatever it might be, you have to live with that, good in you or bad in you. That's up to your beliefs. Ain't no religion is going to tell you you're going to feel good or bad about this action. Your sixth sense will tell you how you feel about that action. And the numbing of that action happens through repetitive use, repetitive act, repetition, right? We eventually become numb to lying because we're so used to lying. But those of us who catch us will recognize the lie and never recognize the truth anymore. You did that to yourself. You created that bug, and the bug is growing and infesting. It's infested. It is what it is. We establish many traits of routine pattern that we just do as an automotive. This is how we load up in the car. This is how we shop. This is how we push carts. This is how we do everything. Okay. Well, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. The other college STEM that I shared is I'm so very sad that they actually took the picture down from the website, and the link that they have at the bottom of it does not load the picture. It says page is invalid. However, the photo caption, I will read the photo caption to you, because this is an event that the librarian who saw me every day asked me if I would be interested. She knew, and here's more proof, because she also asked me towards the end of my college days to act in a play, and I still have the script. I will find it for next week. I will find it, or I will post it on my Facebook page when I do. The script of the play that we did, and I can't remember it even, so when I find it, I'll post the information for it. The script that we did, the role that I had in everybody else's line and everybody, so that you knew your cue. And we dressed up in togas, kind of Roman bullshit, the Caesar type of dress. She really took a liking to me. She was Polish. She had family in Garfield. Garfield has a lot of Polish community there. I don't know if it's still the same. Albanian, Macedonian, Italian community. But this was a World Book Night event. I didn't read jack shit. She knew that. I talked to her every time I was there. She really liked talking with me, discussing things with me, and helping relate some of my issues with her own children, and then using my knowledge to assist in her upbringing of her own children. But I was a kid myself. I guess there's something in here. I don't know. But that's a confidence booster of myself to realize that I have something inside me. I just didn't know what it was. Well, here I am trying it, thinking of what it was. And instead of killing myself, I decided, let's speak it all out. And then I joked about covering myself with a face mask because you might want to see this face before I die. All right? Okay. Berkeley College student veterans shared stories and answered questions about their military experiences during a recent celebration of World Book Night at Berkeley College in Paramus, where I did all of my semesters except one. I went to the Woodland Park campus. So I'll share a story about that in a minute. Pictured left to right, which they don't have. Okay, so Rashad Moore was an African-American kid from Hackensack, and he was my good buddy throughout school when we stayed good buddies. Ibrahim Hanna, myself of Garfield, and U.S. Army Military Police Corps veteran Felix such and such of Hackensack. Hackensack I'm very fond of, not fond of, but I'm aware of because I used to work there in one of my transportation gigs. More than 40, yes, over 40 students and associates attended the event, and it was hosted by us at the library, and a free special copy. I still have the book, I believe, Sunrise of whatever the hell it is, Fallujah. I still have the book. Now, I can't relate to it being a sailor. I was on a boat during the 2009-2010 era of the Afghanistan war, but I did participate and helped me accredit myself of proof that I was in school, proof that I was active publicly in school. I'm not just crazy. I'm not just thinking weird things and here I am spieling everything up. I have done things. Public speaking was the class that really opened up the idea of communicating with the rest of my fellow humans and making group projects a little bit easier to deal with, and communication in general of college a whole lot easier to deal with. Meeting other veterans was great because we were already crazy on our own mindset, in the sense that we didn't know how to socialize with the civilians all over again. So that brotherhood that we had in our own separate branches was actually a united brotherhood of mental way of thinking and progressing through our college days. And we all stuck together. It was 4 of us. One of them is the one that shared to me about amphetamines in a can. He's not in the World Book Night, and I'll keep his name out of it for the sake of his career, because I don't think he wants to be related to me after things I have said. But it is his stories that help open up what I knew about. And then the confirmation of other buddies based off of what he said, I was able to confirm that what he said was true. It's one thing to trust in somebody else's experience, but I relate that to burning our hand on the stove kind of thing. I mean, mom and dad will always tell us not to do things, but we still end up doing it anyway. Or my favorite way of saying it is mom and dad tell us a thing about life, and you still decide to get a stranger's perspective on that thing on life. Does it equate to what they said, or does it differentiate a little bit? And how much of unity do their mindsets have on that subject, whatever subject it might be, whether it's sex, drugs, whatever it might be. Let's close down this here now. And I was going to share a story, wasn't I? And I just forgot it. And it just goes to show you how good that memory works in mine. When I have to go off on a rampage or a rampant, a little speech. The kid, I won't mention his name. He lived in a neighborhood during our college times where in Patterson, you hear gunshots almost every other night. And it would, shock him, jerk him awake, and make him go a little crazy. But every time I saw him in class, he seemed normal. So again, really hard to judge on people. They know how to hide their and put on the right act when necessary. But the fear I have is that you keep acting this act of yours and you're not in Hollywood. You break yourself down mentally. And when your heart can't handle the fakery that you have to do, you end up on that negative side of the suicide report. And that's why I say I speak from experience, not only my own thoughts and my own potential processes of, but for my friends that have told me their truths and they're no longer here. I speak for them. All right, start with the next post now. This one is very close. This one is true for me. It's true for me, and this is why I think I'm a little bit too crazy. My sixth sense tingles a little too much, if you will, or I think too much, perhaps. That might be a factor of everything that's everybody has ever said, because I can't find the true 1 + 1 answer in myself. But the saying is, at every time you feel, you hurt. But every time you hurt, that's when I feel. And I thought about that, not just from the relationship I'm in now, but the one just before this one, my ex. I was told quite a few times, you're emotionless. You got no emotion inside you. You don't smile. I rarely see you cry. If you do cry, and when it is, I can understand. It's a relatable crying situation. Or things that I'm not romantic. I'm not, whatever it might be. I don't share enough emotion in my face, in my attitude, whatever it might be. There's my failure. My emotions are connected with the person I'm with. I'm fine. And the idea is I am fine. And I joke about it saying, because my partner will say, I got a financial problem, or I got a mechanical problem, I got this. And I think to myself, well, you're overdoing your situation, actually, because I just solved it. And I'm waiting for you to stop talking so that I can fill it in. You don't like hearing it, so the discussion turns into a big fucking fight. It ain't that simple. Actually, it is. And you hate the fact that I was able to simplify your problem. Whereas when I finally have a problem, it's this overcomplicated what the fuck story. Because that's when I need help. That's when I need something. You needed help here. And it actually bothers me. I'll do what I have to do to get you back up to speed. But considering, yeah, this is the difference in our perspective on life. Your problems to me are, and of course my problems, well, here's the difference. I have the same problem and I know where it sits on the totem pole. You bring me the same problem and put it up here. Yeah, I got to bring you back down to speed, and it turns into something to get it from this problem to at least here, because this is where we could meet in the middle. But that's my perspective. So what affects you doesn't affect me. Hence, I also said, just because something's funny in that movie doesn't mean I was laughing, but the rest of them, did I have to laugh with them? Yeah, they're laughing, and I don't want to seem like an outcast. So personally, I would laugh and fake it. So I actually adapted or adopted and learned a fake laugh to use for public use. These people are the only people I claim that have heard me truly, truly laugh. And I can't fake it in front of them. When I do, I'm out of control. I'm literally rolling on the floor laughing. So I think I'm pretty happy. Nobody else has gotten me to that point. I have been happy with others before, but to the point where on more than one occasion, I can't stop laughing. I've tried to breathe. I'm run out of breath. I'm uncontrollably laughing. Anyway, to each their own. Happiness. Tito, 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 Tito. Now, the idea is that you're always feeling upset. You feel it depresses you, and you're hurting now, and you're hurting now. Your feelings for me are nothing. So I'm numbed out to it because it's not a stressful problem to me. However, every time I see you hurting, now I feel. And this turns into a big problem to the degree where, now you care. Now you show emotion. Now you give a flying shit. No, where is this before? Because before it was here for me. You brought it here for yourself. I had to meet you somewhere, and I got just as somewhat emotional to balance out this equilibrium of this problem, and then hopefully bring you down to my level, solve it with you, show you the answers, show you the proof, and boom, we get to the solution. That's the idea behind that, and it's a very powerful thing because I realized with another discussion that I've had brought up and said, that you should be at this point be able to recognize that look of sadness in somebody else's eyes, whether you want to approach them and ask them how everything all right. You can recognize these things. When I recognize them, it's when I feel. When I approach you for potentially assisting you, how you react, that retreatment on your end, or the first treatment, is going to make me retreat you now. Hey, man, is everything all right? I don't know you. It's all right. Back off. That's one example of it. But I can recognize that person hurting, and I'll feel for them. Asking, what's your issue? Oh, you broke up with, oh, here we go. Now I can't relate. The look of sadness caught my attention. The tears down your face caught my attention. The explanation for why they're there, due to our experiences, my man, my girl, we cannot relate, but let me see what I can do should you be interested in listening. Not everybody wants to listen because I look at it as they hate the fact that you can simplify their problem and they could not. Well, I can relate to that when somebody can simplify my problem that I could not for an overthinker, right? Bit of a jealousy factor. I envy you for being able to, but then you start questioning that intelligence. How could certain people, let's use the same person. How does this same person have a complicated yet simplified, have a complicated yet simplified solution to my problem that I have deemed personally to be one of my complicated problems, but they can't solve their own type problems where now even I see them as below that benchmark, but they can solve mine. You see the genius in certain people, how that works. I can drive the car, but I don't know how it works. Somebody else, like Einstein, might know how all this car works, but may not be able to drive it themselves. That's a very bad example to the degree of, well, most people who know how to work on cars can drive them. Most, but that's the key word there is most, not everybody. Here's a genius engineer that doesn't know how the gas pedal work, but he knows he needs X amount of input of fuel for the, yeah, they know that stuff, but they can't push the gas pedal and control the vehicle through the steering wheel. Very bad hand-eye coordination, very good mind-to-eye coordination, or mind-to-mouth, or however you'd like to look at that. Different coordination for these people. And then dropping bombs and being the bomb. Now the shirt takes its toll. This was gifted to me, the shirt and the dangly keychain from my brother, because as Angry Birds, we as Middle Easterners were deemed as, you know, self-blowing up, self-martyring bombs themselves. And I came up with a weird little joke on that. Is how, if you remember the game, if those of us who do, I'm just going to explain these two interesting birds. The white bird dropped bombs, dropped egg bombs. That's not a racial joke or anything, is there? And then the black bomb was the bomb himself. Different explosions, different ways to use the birds. And then in this life, dropping bombs usually means negative language, or dropping a dime, as they say, ratting somebody out, snitching them out. You're dropping a bomb on somebody. I'm dropping bombs. And I think most of it's really street talk or street slang for load up the guns and drop a few shells. Oops, with different terminologies, different meanings for the same line. Violence, no violence, same line, same wordplay, same everything. One could be violent, one not so much, or not at all. Right. Well, I guess staying dangerous and staying safe. Different words, different perspectives. Dropping bombs, same thing. You got Webster, and then you got urban. And then being the bomb. And again, being an Arab or Middle Easterner, it's tough to say I am the bomb, because people look at you differently. Whoopsie daisy, not the correct words you want to say at all. Not the correct words you want to say. However, we also say that as, well, I did. It's our generation. Maybe it's the generational gap. He's the bomb, meaning they're very good. They're the shiznit. They are the greatest of the great. You want to race him? He's the bomb. You want to play sports against them? They're the bomb. You know, he's a bomb quarterback. He's a bomb at. Then, as I noticed, we grew on, the wordplay started changing. Oh, he bombed that throw. So now the bomb word just went from the greatest person to the worst throw in the world to an actual self-exploding bomb. Those differentiating key word or key plays of the word, play on the word, will potentially get you in trouble. And then being a smart ass allows you to creatively use these words at the wrong time to the wrong people, and you'll get that response. You're being a smart ass with me right now. This is no joking matter. Well, actually it was to me, because you came off to me as a joke that you're calling me out for this. But to each their own perspective when it comes to that. Again, when you call me into the office for something that I knew I was probably going to get a call in the office for, I'm pre-laughing, because I guarantee you I was laughing when I did it. And I knew I'd get caught or whatever. And I'd show up to your office laughing, knowing you caught me, you got me. You start off laughing, and then I make the smart ass comment, and that's when the laughing stops. But that seems to me like it's no different than raising a child. Because this one little one that I take care of, she will laugh at you while she's getting yelled at until a certain wordplay or a tone of voice comes out that'll shake her body. I could be real deep when I need to, or good bellow. And then she gets that shake, and that giddy laugh turns into a cry. But then you get her right back to laughing again. So that's when I play with her. I play with her emotions that way. Well, was it funny? Or are you upset? Oh, it's funny again. Oh, it's upset. My face is making you funny? You can have fun with the child, but now you get to the point where you're trying to figure out, well, hold on a second. So you find this originally funny until you realize you're getting yelled at for it. Now it's not funny. We learn that as children. And as we grow older and get into the workforce, we know that it's wrong. We do it anyway. We laugh at it when we do it. We get called into the office. We're giddy, just like the child, laughing at first until your backhand shows up, or until you bellow out something, or you have paperwork ready to write them up. Oh, come on, man. I wasn't so serious. All right, come on. I didn't know. But at the end of the day, that's what they needed to get you in trouble. That's what they wanted. And they wanted to see how you would react. I guarantee this much as well from personal experience, because multiple jobs that I've had cameras watching us. I know the boss saw it, and I know the boss laughed at it first. When I worked security, I was monitoring all the cameras, so I got to see everything firsthand. My boss had it at home as well, so he was watching it. And sure enough, when something happened on camera, he would call. Did you see this on camera, certain number? Actually, yeah, I was just writing a report for it so that the owner would know about it. Oh, good, good. Yeah, I just saw it. Yeah, keep your eye on that. Make sure something such happens and call this and do this process. Should it. Gotcha, no problem. I did do my job. Here's a little example of that, actually, because the same job and the owner, the one that doesn't have the cameras installed, he would, where was I going with it? Oh, okay. He called me out around, say, 10 o'clock at night on my shift, and I got off at midnight, around 10 o'clock. He gave the security phone a call, and I had my laptop out. I was playing a video game while monitoring. Yeah, I did. So what? We all do it. And he says, Mr. Hanna, I'm just curious. I understand you have your laptop out there. I also understand you're not in school. You're not going through college. How do I know? How can I trust you in watching all my other monitors and know that you're going to see what's going on? So I told him, I said, well, with all due respect, if I'm already watching 36 cameras, what's one more? The true logic behind that argument is the fact that the monitors are in separate locations. So while I'm looking here, I can't technically look here. Peripherals, and doesn't matter how excuse you have to make it work, it does not work. But when your answer is creative enough to say, well, Mr. So-and-so, I'm already watching 36 cameras here, monitors, I don't think it's any trouble to put one more in there. That's a smart assy answer, but one that can get you away with it. Again, they're reading you. The cameras, I was watching the back of my head, so I was watching myself. And when I found out later that the owner did have access, obviously he's the owner, he's got access. See, those are obvious facts. You don't have to ask. Those are rhetorical questions. But when your boss presents it to you, he'll tell you, only I have access. Yeah, that doesn't mean he didn't give it. You're the security company. You didn't give it to the boss, to the owner, your boss. You're mine, he's yours. Right. Give you the access. So he would be watching me anyway. So he knew what I was doing at all times. And I told him that little slick remark. And I swear to God, he said, oh, no, very well. Appreciate you. All right. Have a good night. Stay safe. Boom. I didn't learn stay safe from him. I learned stay safe on my own time, way before him. And that's just one example of people who will try to poke and pry at you. Now, I mentioned 9 months of perfect record and then 3 back-to-back write-ups for bullshit 5 minutes off the camera type thing. And we say that's bullshit, but what were you doing 5 minutes off camera? Well, I can relate it and say, well, some people go off camera to literally go mess with something else, literally deviate from the job. All of us, 2 to 3 of us, depending on who's working that night, were smokers. And it was I thought, a rhetorical okay to step out of camera shy to have your cigarette and then come back. That is not necessary. I mean, it is. Okay, it's neglecting your duty. And again, when they need something to use on you, out of the 3 people who all went out for cigarettes, you'll get written up for it. You'll be 5 minutes out of camera shy. Here's the problem with that. They know, this is my theory, they know the attacks are coming. So they're told, guys, we have to attack a certain person. We know how they're documenting. So we're going to tell you how to document from now on until we remove this person. Make sure you take away those 5 minutes that you guys go have a cigarette with him. He will put the 5 minutes he was there. You make sure your 5 minutes are taken out of there and gapped properly those 5 minutes when you return. That's why you can't win the fight against them. They were protected. They needed to root me out for whatever reason. I won't get into that reason just yet. I'm going to explain more about who I ended up with, and that is the reason they attacked me, and all that stuff a little bit later. Today, I wanted to get through what the poems did for me and how they worked, what they mean. I can follow instructions. I can follow orders just fine. I just don't always agree with them. And I do find my own way. Dropping bombs versus being the bomb. I'll joke and say I'm still the bomb, and I'm the bomb at dropping bombs because I'm going to drop bombs until I can't drop anything anymore. In one way or another, I will keep dropping these bombs. Verbal, niche, little creative sayings. Get you guys up and running and thinking just a little bit. Maybe you can relate something to some aspect in your life or to somebody, and that aspect of your life is your friend. So that's why that can be worded that way, to some aspect in your life, to a friend, to a family, to whatever. Go watch this guy. I remember this minute. He talks about something, or holy crap, you just said something I heard some nutso say. Well, I guess your friend or your family member is just as nutso as me. I want to share my family vacation before I go off here. And I had to delay today's stream even 5 minutes because I did have a power outage 5 minutes before I was supposed to go live. The family vacation that drastically changed my whole entire life was my 12 going on 13, going on to a new school summer off. And August birthday, so I turned what I considered to be the appropriate age for the following or the upcoming year of school. I went 12 and a half years of my whole life. I have never met my overseas family that was in Syria. I grew up with my mother, my father, and my brother. That's pretty much all I knew and who I met. I met more later on, those who finally came to this country little by little. But at the time of my upbringing, nobody, all of them were overseas. I got old photos with some of them that had to go back overseas, but I was too young to remember any of them. Like my grandfather on my mother's side and my aunt married in on my father's side. So we went to Syria for the first time, a month-long vacation. And let me just say this. At the end of that vacation, my father asked us, all right, kids, and we're all crying. We're all sad about leaving. You kids ready to go back to the United States, get back on your PlayStations and stuff? And we said, Dad, fuck the PlayStation. Family was more important than anything. I was a gamer to escape reality. I played video games to not go outside because I hated what was going on in my life at the time. I was getting ready to move. I was going to lose my friends. I didn't know if, and I didn't. We didn't see each other as often as we wanted to. So we went to Syria. And I met my family, specifically my mother's side of the family. You know, again, you have an impression of your parents, and then you meet where they come from, and you ask yourself, how the hell are these my parents? I met my cousins. Okay, the first thing I heard from one of my cousins, first of all, was, hey, Bero. And he's got this bad English, Frenchy accent with his Arabic. And I was just getting into heavy metal at the time. And when I say heavy metal, I brought two with me, Disturbed, the musical band. I had a CD. Disturbed, Metallica, and Godsmack. And they heard me playing that on my, I guess, Walkman. I don't remember what device I had at the time. CD player. On my CD player. And they said, oh, you'll be perfect. Come check this out. I got introduced to Marilyn Manson. I got introduced to Dimmu Borgir, which ended up playing a very big, this black metal. That's satanic. Whatever. It's a mesh of music. But when I saw them perform and I heard the lyrics and I read the lyrics and I heard the tones that they can play, the rhythms, I fell in love. I dropped hip hop. I was just transitioning from completely hip hop to slightly hardcore, hard metal, the hard rock, if you will, into this black metal scene. I didn't even have a really good middle transition fade, straight into black metal, which to this day I still listen to, and I've explored more genres there, but since then. But yeah, black metal, and what got me into it, what he said, and I'm gonna do the best I can in his accent. Oh, pero no, fuck the God, ah. That's my cousins on my mother's side. My mother, at the time, I thought of her as a religious queen, sort of. She was very spiritual. She was always spiritual. And, you look at her and you say, well, she comes from a well family. It was opposite. I always knew my father's side of the family well maintained their physical appearance and the way of speaking. I always knew that. And it was confirmed when we went on vacation. But to see my mother's side be this wild fucking type of family, I was immediately clicked. That was my rebellious side, escape if I can, and any excuse we had to make sure we spent the night at one of their houses, we took it. We did it. That's where I wanted to be. There's where I wanted to learn from. There's reality. Not the fake, put on a suit, shake a hand, sit down, do it the correct way, cross your legs this way, eat this way, fork on the left. No. I'm not saying they were that strict, but to explain the difference of these two families, one was basically that, and the other one was basically that. May as well call it the North versus the South, the rebels versus the fucking everybody else. That's what it was. But I fell in love with this rebellion because they were real to me. They were putting on an act all the time. And I don't like acting. I refuse to act if I can. I'm acting now. I'm a hypocrite. Two-Face. Not Joker. Two-Face. That's okay. So I met that side of the family. That was what made it the greatest vacation in the world and changed me completely. So when we came back, I wasn't fully nervous of transitioning to a new public school at that point. I was still quiet, shy, and shady to a degree because I didn't want to socialize with you. Listen, socialization. My first impression. Long hair is yours to me and bandana, good for you. Good for you. My first impression, 13 years old, going into 8th grade, middle school. Walking to school. First of all, before the school year started, my parents had asked me, would you consider private school? And I said, why? I said, because we'd feel safer knowing you'd be in a private school because the public school here seems dangerous, which is funny as well, because before we moved there, before that summer vacation, we were told that the Bergen County educational system was one of the best in the country. So we bought into that. And then again, you meet the crowd that lives there and you meet the names that live there. You meet the families that really live in Bergen County. Fuck off with that record. Bullshit. And I said, no, I can survive it. I'll handle it just fine. Public school is okay. So on my first walk to school, I passed a bunch of females smoking cigarettes in a group, and I'm behind them walking. And after we finally turned the corner, we met up at the corner turn. I stayed on my own side I noticed 2 of them were pregnant. 13-year-old smoking cigarettes and pregnant. This is what I had to socialize with. This was the public you wanted. And what were they doing? Both of them meshing and integrating with the other kids that are going to make sure they're at the party Friday, Saturday night. Amphetamines, cocaine, drinking, marijuana, you name it, it was under the sun. Everybody's medications and prescriptions came out. Here we go. And whatever they can buy on the streets. And I also learned very quickly from that point on, when I started socializing when I could, rehab was nothing more than a place they went to go meet the next dealer. It was not a place for them to get clean. It helped them on paper say that they were discharged. Yeah, it's a paper record, but again, your paper record was you were involved in the rehab center. Your other paper record is you're discharged from that record center. Some of you fake your way through the Cleanliness Act, but know how dirty you really are. And then the confession I got out of multiple rehabilitators was as simple as, I'm sorry about the clarity, guys, was as simple as we went there because we heard a certain name was there. So we went to go meet up with them to see what the next stash of wherever would be when we get out of here. They play the rehab system. That's just one aspect. They don't just play the rehab system. They know people in the rehab system that help play them through it positively so that they get the medication they need, those amphetamine prescriptions and everything else that you need. Then I learned a confirmation of that. I joined the service. I come out, go to college. After college, I get my first civilian job was medical transportation. And my training week, I was asked to come in at 4 o'clock in the morning. Nobody else came in at 4 o'clock in the morning except the guy that was training me. But after training week, he never came back in at 4 in the morning. Here's the reason. We picked up New Jersey's local methadone patients that were on Medicaid, take them to the methadone clinic, get their monthly shots for some, weekly shots for others, and daily doses for the others. Well, that's what their centers are good for. Go get your methadone in. I met a lot of them down here in security gigs. And this one specific guard took a once a month, I forgot what the medication was called, once a month shot, but it is basically to keep his energy levels for a whole fucking month. So I was introduced to that on my first gig in Hackensack. Medical transportation, 5 o'clock in the morning, your meth heads are getting their methadone. And then at night, they're your bartenders that are still, while they're on amphetamines, while they're on their uppity ups, they still snorting lines of coke and other shit and other pills and prescriptions. The felonious friend that I have down here, he's okay with that lifestyle. That's his thing, and he doesn't mind doing it. And actually, I'm going to start explaining what I learned about him. I have some consent from him to release certain things, and I'm going to explain next week. I believe next week. We'll get into it next week. The decisions he's made, where he's ended up, why, the stories we have shared together, me and him, he and I, and why he wants the world to burn, in a sense. But I think that's enough for this week's show, ladies and gentlemen. I thank you for joining in on the Laughing Lamp at the live show. If anybody is here, I'll leave it open for just a couple of minutes to type in a question or request or anything. Like I said, I'm not the only crazy guy here. Type in something crazy and kooky, and get a crazy and kooky response. It might actually mesh with your mentality. All right. Other than that, I am Jin of the Lamp, your host, and I am your inner fear, your innermost fear. I believe we all have one of those, something deep inside of us that has a deep fear, whether losing a loved one, getting sick, not being able to provide, not being able to play guitar, not being able to do something or lose whatever. We all have an inner fear. And I claim to be that inner fear in just a manner of wordplay. I am your word fear, your jinn, magical creatures. Genie will always play on your wish, will play on the words that you use to fuck you over. And in my case, to laugh. My laughing lamp. A lamp that laughs. That's how you find me in the desert. And I keep my own amps on in my lamp. I hope you guys do the same. Keep the amps on in your own lamps. And if you can, help keep the amps on in this lamp. Again, I guess I'll repeat. I'm not very good at commercializing myself, but there is a PayPal set up at the About Me page or the About page on my YouTube. Feel free to check that out should you have the means to go ahead and do that. If you enjoy what I'm doing, support financial is always great. Whether you support financially or not, I will hope to support myself with my own personal financial gig anyway. I've kind of stopped on the Twitter thing, but follow me on Facebook. Continue to follow me on Facebook. And for the friends that don't have Facebook, for those that don't have that, I will always try to be here every Friday at 8 o'clock. You can catch me then. I will start putting updates on my YouTube should I can't post a video on that Friday. And I have to postpone it to Saturday if I can. I will try to put a YouTube video message out as well for those that don't have Facebook, those who do follow on the YouTube format. That way you guys are up to date as well. I appreciate the strangers you guys keep bringing into the stream. I appreciate all the views that I have been getting lately. Feel free to drop comments. I will always go back and read them. I check my page every day consistently. That way I have an idea on what to bring up on the next week's video, how to talk about something. Maybe I'll bring it up in a Facebook post so I can memory stone it into the conversation the following week. And we'll see how it goes. All right. Thanks again, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me this week. Enjoy the rest of your night and stay safe.